Hey everyone. Today I'm going to be chatting with Chase. Yes, I'm doing the hair zhuzh. Going to be chatting with Chase from Gatecreeper. Creeper, I should say. Um, so he's just about to join us. If you have any questions, put them in the little box with the question mark. I can't guarantee we'll get to them, but hopefully. I'm just bringing him in. My hair looks like it's grey, but it's not. It's black. Hey,
Hello.
what's up?
How are you?
I'm good. Good. Thanks for joining. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, so I've got like some stuff obviously that I want to talk to you about, but it's kind of like just kind of like a chit chat conversation. So anything goes, swearing, drinking, whatever the hell you want to do, basically. Um, yeah, so firstly, I just wanted to say the album that you just released last year, Deserted, is like one of my favorite.
Awesome.
So, so I'm like, that's sort of actually that was the album that I heard that got me into the rest of your music because
Cool.
a friend shared it with me, and so I was like, whoa, that's amazing. Yeah, and I just wanted to say, obviously, um, when you like started out, I know that like you didn't really um you were playing guitar, and I know you were more into like punk and stuff like that when you were growing up,
Yeah.
um, and more so than metal and that kind of thing. And
Mhm.
then you kind of um, got into skate punk and like skate videos and stuff like that, which is where I learnt a lot of music as well because love skate videos. Um, and then I think you were saying something about I saw somewhere that you were talking about when you were really young that you used to listen to the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of everyone's got such an eclectic thing, and I was wondering like what else aside from the Beatles were you listening to when you were a kid, like a little kid?
Um, Trying to remember. I mean, the Beatles was definitely like a first musical memory for me. My dad took me to
Hmm.
see Paul McCartney for my third birthday. Um,
Amazing.
and the Beatles movie Help, I used to watch that a lot as a kid. I
Yeah,
really
yeah,
liked the movie. Um,
yeah.
and then I think when I was a little bit older, I was just listening to whatever was on the radio, just kind of like mainstream radio, like pop
Mhm.
radio. I remember like Ace of Base. I saw the sign,
Yeah, I tried
and,
to forget that song,
and
but
like
I do remember.
whatever. Um, my dad taught me how to like tape songs off the radio, so I would
Yeah,
just. I don't even know if I would listen to these like little mixtapes that I would make, but I was just excited about being able to like capture the songs on a tape.
on a
Um,
tape. Yeah,
so it was whatever it was like R&B or like Boys to Men or whatever was on the radio.
yeah.
Um, and then I got into more like whatever was on rock radio. I remember just like whether it was like Oasis or Nirvana
Yeah.
but then I think a big one that was kind of like my journey into liking my own music or the music that I've grown to love now would be like Green Day,
Yeah,
because they were like on the radio at the time. So Green Day,
yeah.
and
I
then I
was a
kind of got into punk through that.
yeah. I used to because you're a bit younger than me. You're 33.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I used to do like a radio show during our lunchtime,
Mhm.
and yeah, I used to play Dookie a lot,
Yeah.
and I got in trouble for playing long. I think it was Longview because it mentions masturbation,
Yes.
but that was like back in the sorry, an alarm or something. Just tried to have do something. Yeah, so you sort of started off, I guess, in that like emo punk kind of thing. Did you go down the route of like the kind of harder punk?
um, Not really, like as far as like street punk and that sort of stuff. Not really.
Yeah.
Not until later. Like any
Mhm.
sort of like crust punk or anything like that. It was more, Green Day, and then I got into Blink-182,
Yep.
and then from there it
Everyone,
was just
that's everyone's guilty pleasure.
yeah. I mean, Dude Ranch, I'll still listen to that. Like I have no shame about like liking that record, and that's still something that was very influential on me and got me into the world that I'm in today. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, then a lot of the skate punk, like Punkorama, like No
Yeah.
Effects, Pennywise, all that kind of stuff. Fat
Yeah.
Records.
Yeah. Yeah. Fat Wreck. Was it Fat Wreck? Yeah.
Yeah, Fat Wreck.
You weren't a Sublime fan, were you?
No, I mean actually I did. That was one of the first like CDs that I owned, I think.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, I'm not a Sublime hater. I don't hate them.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
yeah.
They've got that, like, I think I just hated them because I don't know why. I always went through a stage of disliking Sublime, but like I loved all the other punk stuff around at the time.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that Sublime is one of those bands that um, their fans are terrible, or most people that like
yes,
Sublime are terrible. I feel the same way about Tool.
yes.
Like I
Oh,
hate Tool fans.
Tool
Um,
fans are the worst.
so it's made me kind of not like Tool, even though it's not really even about them. It's about more like their fans. But
Yeah, they have shitty fans, and that's just yeah, it's the same as Sublime. They have really terrible fans, um, as well. Um, and then I was gonna say, then you kind of like made your way, I guess, from punk kind of more into hardcore,
yeah,
like Earth Crisis and Snapcase and stuff like that.
yeah,
Um, did you go to shows and stuff back then?
yeah. I mean, I started going to shows when I was like 12, probably. Um,
That's
I went to
amazing.
what? Oh, well, I have an older uncle and some cousins that would, you know, have brought me to shows or whatever. But the first time I went to a show like with my friends with no
Mhm.
parental guidance or anything like that was when I was 12. I went and saw MXPX,
Yep.
and then from there, I think I was still kind of like playing sport. I had started skateboarding, but I was still as a kid, like I grew up playing sports, whatever the season was, whether it was like football, basketball, baseball. But
Yep.
I remember that after I went, at the time when I was 12, I had just started skateboarding, but I was still playing sports, because that's what I had always done. And I remember
Mhm.
I was playing football at the time, and I went to my first like punk show, and then from there I was just like, I'm not gonna play sports anymore. Like this is what I'm into
Yeah.
now. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like this, and I don't want to, you know, I'm changing the path. So I think I quit. I think I quit playing football like towards the end of the season. The season even wasn't done yet, but I was just like, I'm over this.
I'm out. And
Yeah,
it kind of, I guess, like football is like, especially in America, is kind of full of a lot of dickheads.
yeah,
Like that, like, like kind of that real, like, masculine dickheads that like really shit music and kind of shit personalities, I guess. Um, and so I was gonna say, are you more into the like the metal hardcore, I guess, more than the hardcore?
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I guess I didn't really even realize it at the time. I mean, I didn't have a frame of reference for anything. So, but definitely looking back on the hardcore that I liked was definitely like the metallic kind of. So I have a cousin that showed me like Earth Crisis and Snapcase,
Mhm.
and that was some of the first hardcore I heard. So it wasn't like um,
Like
whatever, like youth crew hardcore.
windmilling and stuff.
Yeah, I mean later on I had a friend that kind of got me into more of that, like at the time, like contemporary hardcore bands.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that without even realizing it, I liked the hardcore that was more metal. And
Mhm.
then that's why from there, I kind of quickly just started getting into just straight metal because it was
Yeah,
already,
yeah.
but it wasn't a conscious thing at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Did you ever listen to Walls of Jericho?
Yeah. Yeah.
because I love them. They're way more metal than they are hardcore.
Yeah, like all those, because this is at the time. I mean, I was in high school. It was probably like 2003 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So like all those bands that were on like Trustkill and
Mm-hmm.
Ferret Records,
And then
and yeah. So I think Walls of Jericho was on Trustkill, maybe,
yeah, I
or
think so. Yeah,
yeah,
and they used to, it was when Hellfest was a massive thing, and they used to release DVDs and stuff.
yeah. I
Um,
had that.
but yeah, yeah, I just remember All Hail the Dead is like one of the best hardcore metal albums by Walls of
I
Jericho.
haven't even thought about that band in who knows how long. So I'll have to I'll have to revisit it.
Listen, yeah, well, I revisited it like a couple of weeks ago during this whole COVID thing. So yeah, and I was like,
Still holds
damn,
up.
this is a good album. And the lyric, not the lyrics, sorry, but the vocals are so brutal.
And it's a female
And
singer, right?
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not like it's not super femme either, like the vocals, but like they're just so brutal. They're amazing. Um, I think, and you like Black Dahlia Murder and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff as well. Um, so then that was kind of like your gateway, I guess, into metal.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so what was like the first metal like stuff you started listening to?
Um, yes. So, I mean, I guess before that, the actual like metal that I listened to is probably pretty stock, like Slayer or like Pantera or something like that.
Yeah,
But as far
yeah,
as like, extreme underground death metal, um, I think that after, like you mentioned, Black Dahlia Murder, like um, At the Gate, Slaughter of the Soul was one of my
yeah,
first like entryways, because it was like
yeah, yeah,
it's melodic, so it was a little bit more accessible than some other stuff. Um, so that was something that I really liked, and I mean at the time, like I didn't have a frame of reference for a lot of things. So now I can categorize everything like by different sub genres, like,
yeah,
oh, this
yeah.
is melodic, this is
There's
whatever.
all the
And
different
at the
stuff.
time I
Yeah,
didn't really know what it was that I was hearing. Like I didn't know this specific, you know, sub genre or whatever it was called that I liked it. Like I remember, yeah, At the Gate, Slaughter of the Soul, I remember hearing like the Emperor and the Nightside
yep,
Eclipse record, and I didn't know that it was black metal. Like I just thought
yeah,
it was cool, um,
yeah.
and then I just dug deeper. And luckily at that time it was like super easy to download music online. I mean,
Yeah,
there
it was
wasn't the
everywhere.
options. Yeah, there wasn't. It wasn't as easy as it is now just to stream it everywhere.
Yeah, it was
Like
all
on Spotify.
secret. Like you'd have
Yeah,
to type
Soulseek.
in, yeah, or
Yeah,
or you just type in the band of the album torrent, and then
yeah,
like
yeah,
someone would post it in their blog or whatever, and then you'd be like, oh, rad. I was
yeah,
gonna say, did you ever get into Converge?
yeah, yeah. That around when I was in high school, I liked Converge, and I still do. I mean, we work with Kurt now, and he mixes our records. So, um,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, he Converge, are really cool. But yeah, I was definitely into them. When I was first getting into the hardcore, like metalish hardcore, and I remember I had that DVD I used to watch a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and so you were saying like you got into like Emperor and that kind of thing. Did you like was your like you sort of said you weren't aware of like the subgenres and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because of where you lived or like your environment, or you just this wasn't something that people were into where you were?
I mean, I don't know. I think it was, I guess maybe not my like direct friend group. I didn't have one person that was just like, hey, this is, you know, lay things out for me, or like the very stereotypical like older brother or like kid in the neighborhood that hands you like a Slayer tape or something. Like I kind of had to
Yeah,
figure
yeah.
it out myself, so it was just going through the internet or whatever it was and kind of figuring out you know, hey, I like this. And I'm pretty resourceful, and also I'm very curious. So
Mm-hmm.
if I find something I like, I'm like, oh, well, I want to find more bands that sound like this, or um, what bands was this band influenced by, and like trace it back. And
Yeah, yeah.
again, thanks to the internet, it makes it pretty easy, whether it's to
It's
find information or to download music. So
yeah.
I
I'll
spent
find out like
several years.
what they
Yeah,
like. That's how
yeah,
I find
exactly.
bands. Like
Yeah,
who they toured with or who they like would talk about that they liked.
yeah. I mean, the
And
more
then
like
and
old school way is like looking into bands, like in the liner notes, and see what bands they think, or like what bands shirts they have on. Um,
yeah,
which you could
yeah.
still do that, but the internet makes it a little bit easier.
Makes it so much so much easier. So did you go down the route of I just want to check is my sound okay?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh cool, because I can like hear myself and it's annoying.
yeah. No, you can. I can hear you.
Oh, good. Um, yeah, I was gonna say, so did you end up going down the route of like, like Norwegian metal and like Swedish metal, that kind of,
Yeah, yeah. Eventually, once I started getting, like I said, at the gates, and I went from there. And I think at first, like a lot of the death metal that I liked was happened to be the Swedish death metal stuff, just because it's definitely more melodic and it's a little bit more accessible. Like
yeah,
in
yeah,
Tunes and Dismember and all those bands, which I really like today. And obviously, if you listen to Gatecreeper, you can tell that we really like those bands. Um, but yeah, after once I started, I started being able to categorize like micro subgenres of, you know, regionally where bands are from or whatever it was. So I do like all the Scandinavian stuff for sure.
yeah, yeah. Like I think, yeah, I started getting to that, but then I went the Norwegian way. I think my earphones are.
All right.
Let's see if that's better. There's a bit of a buzz sound apparently.
Is it me or is it you?
Can you hear it now? The buzz
Yeah,
sound?
I could never
Could
hear
you
it,
hear it
so I
when
don't
I had
know.
the ears on?
I couldn't, but
Yeah, I can't.
it's probably me actually.
Yeah, I can't figure out where it's coming from. I don't think it's me. So, but anyway, doesn't matter. I'll put my ears back on so that you don't have to hear it, like, because it's annoying. I was gonna say, yeah, yeah, and then I went down that whole path of Norwegian, metal and like, you know, with like, Bathory and of course Mayhem, but gave it gave it like I kind of stopped listening to I guess Mayhem when Vargas joined, like because he's a dick. So yeah, I kind of stopped listening to them. I still feel a little bit of guilt about that. Did you ever listen? Were you ever a fan of them, or are they?
Mayhem?
Is there of Mayhem? Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, we were supposed to
yeah,
tour with them the last. We were supposed to tour with them a couple months ago.
yeah,
Hold on,
yeah. Because I
let
mean,
me go get some. Let me go get some headphones, and I'll do it. So make sure it's not working for you.
yeah, yeah, cool. Sorry guys about this weird sound. Um, yeah, there's a weird buzzy buzz coming. I've got no speakers on. I've just double checked, so it's the Rona. Yeah, maybe. A sec.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Ah, yes, that's better.
All right.
Much better. Yeah, it must have been just some weird, yeah, buzz thing in the
It was me the
background.
whole time. My
Um,
bad. My bad.
yeah, it was you. Um, yeah, so yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, all that kind of stuff was like the death metal that I kind of knew and like Inquisition and like, all that kind of stuff, even though I Inquisition are like very problematic because of
Yeah.
the whole like, the issues that they've had. But I like the
Yeah.
music and it's kind of a bummer to find
Mm-hmm.
out that they're shit
Yeah.
people, you know, um, as well. And then I guess like from there, like was there any like metal band that like just completely struck you that you were like fuck, like, and that kind of inspired you to want to then, go down the path of metal or death metal?
Um, Probably the bands that I mentioned earlier, probably Entombed and Dismember, um,
Hmm.
were two bands that I really I really liked when I first got into, that style of music, and I still really do. And like I said earlier, like it's obviously a huge influence on Gatecreeper. So
Yeah,
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 those two.
those two, yeah. And I know you used to play guitar as well. And when you first started out in Gatecreeper, you played guitar, not sang.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I
so
still
when
do,
you,
but
but you sing now as well. But how were you singing previously, or was that something that just started when you got with Gatecreeper?
I had another band that I played in from when I was like 18 to probably like 22 or so, that I
Hmm.
played guitar and sang in.
Hmm.
Um, and then when we started Gatecreeper, um, I that was the first band that I just did vocals in,
Hmm.
but I still play guitar. I mean, I don't play guitar live in Gatecreeper, but I still write a lot of the, help write a lot of the music, and sometimes I'll play on the records too. But
Yeah,
I'll probably never be on stage with the guitar with
with
Gatecreeper.
the guitar. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, where did you? I was gonna say, like, when did you start singing, and how did you like figure out how you wanted to sing? Because I think it's such a hard thing, especially for metal, and to like getting your voice and like figuring
Yeah,
out how to like make like get the right sound and learning how to breathe properly and like get the growling and the screaming and everything
yeah,
like
yeah.
without running out of breath and like all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I feel like I'm still figuring it out. Like I
Hmm.
don't. I just kind of went for it. We were in the studio. We hadn't when Gatecreeper we first recorded, like we hadn't even played a show yet, so I hadn't even really even done it out loud
Yeah.
until we were in the studio, and I was just like, all right, let me go for it. It took me a little bit to get the hang of it, but and I think that my vocals have changed since that point. And even from our first full length to our second full length, I think that I sound a lot different, or at least
Hmm.
I hope that I've improved a little bit. And I think from just experience, whether it's in the studio or touring, yeah, touring,
Hmm.
I think I gain a lot of um, insight from just having to do it every night, or touring with other bands, or like touring with Corpse Grinder, or whatever, like people who have
Yeah,
been
and
doing it
like
forever.
and picking up
And
tips and stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that I'm still figuring out. I think that I'm self-taught on pretty much anything that I ever do,
Mhm.
whether it's a guitar or just kind of like watching other people or figuring it out. Or I think like mimicking a lot of stuff where it's like, all right, here's the singers that I like. I'm going to try to sound like them, or like, oh, here's the bands I like. I want to try to write some music that's like that. Um, and
Yeah,
figure,
I think that's how a lot of people figure it out
yeah.
by like
So
listening to that stuff and then trying to emulate.
yeah. But I don't think that I have very good technique. Like it's still physically, um, it, my throat gets pretty physically like tore up.
Tour. Yeah,
Like after a show, or, especially when we're on tour and I'm doing it every night, somewhere around like 3 or 5 shows in, my voice pretty much goes out for like a day or two.
yeah,
So then
yeah,
I kind of have to struggle through a show or two, um, not being able to do, you know, perform 100%. But once I make it through that, I feel like whatever's going on, it's like whatever's being ripped to shreds, and my throat kind of gets calloused over, and then I'm good to go. So,
yeah, yeah. Well, I
but
guess it's
I
kind of
think,
like,
yeah,
yeah, sorry. I was just gonna
no,
say it's probably seen as it's not particularly metal, but if you drink like particular tea, like before you go on stage, and like use Manuka honey. Manuka honey is really good for coating your throat to stop um that horrible like scratch
Yeah.
and like rip that you kind of get.
Yeah.
Um, uh, it really helps like a lot. Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah, and then I was gonna it kind of like I guess then as you've gone along, you're kind of tightening up a lot more. And when you're like putting, I was wondering like when you are working, I know you usually just work, I think with, is it Eric? You and Eric usually work together first before you
Yeah.
go to the band?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you, is music first and then lyrics,
Yeah.
or is it kind of, yeah, like a
Yeah.
riffage and then,
Yeah, exactly. The lyrics are always last. Because I always think that for Gatecreeper, we want to trim the fat as much as we can on the songs and make it, um, like there's no unnecessary parts. So I
Hmm.
in we see it as like if a song can't stand on its own even before there's vocals on it, like um, like there's no bad riffs. We don't want to like throw a riff in a song that's just like a placeholder. Like, oh, it's kind of boring, but there's gonna be vocals over it. Like I want every
Yeah,
part to
yeah,
to be able to stand on its own. So I think that kind of puts it to the test. It's like if we can finish a song that's just guitars and drums and everything, and it still is cool, and I want to listen to it, um,
yeah,
then it's only going to be better with vocals on it. And I always see the vocals as like just complementary to it. Um,
yeah,
and it's almost like because it's not, I'm not actually like singing, it's not really adding any melodic quality to it.
yeah, yeah.
It's more like percussion, like it's more like a percussive instrument and it's more about the rhythms of it.
Mhm.
So yeah, the vocals and vocal patterns and lyrics and everything is always done last.
Yeah.
So
I think like that's parts of metal, that's what I like. I like the sound of the vocals.
mhm.
Sometimes I don't really pay that much attention to the lyrics
Yeah,
specifically.
neither
It's
do
the
I. So
way, it's like the sound, and that'll drag like kind of drag me in. And then later on I'll maybe sometimes check out the lyrics, um if you know, but it's more that actual whole sound as a band, and then that vocal sound that kind of like brings it all together as well. And I was gonna say, ask you, where did the nickname Hella Hammer come from?
it's just like a stupid joke. Um, like obviously based on Hellhammer the band or the
Mm-hmm.
guy, the drummer of Mayhem. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Me and some friends years ago, it was just like a stupid inside joke that like the word hella is like a very West Coast, like California slang.
Yeah, like
And Arizona,
California.
yeah, yeah. So it started as a joke using the word because I mean Arizona, we border California and we kind of always get leftover California, whether it's like fashion or slang or whatever, we get it like 5 years later, we're always behind.
Yeah,
And I think the word hella is always, it was funny to me because it's like a very surfer, like kind of burnout
yeah,
terminology, which I think a lot of my sense of humor, a lot of things come into my vocabulary as a joke at first because I'm like making fun of it.
yeah,
And then soon enough, like I'm just saying it, it's not ironic at all. So
yeah,
hella
yeah,
is one of those things. And yeah, I thought hella hammer was funny.
yeah, yeah,
I've just had it ever since.
yeah, yeah. Um, do you have any other like funny words that you've taken on?
I don't even know. I mean, I think it's gotten lost in translation. I don't even remember why. But I'm sure that there is some slang in my vocabulary that it started as a joke and now it's just who I
Yeah,
am.
yeah. I mean, Australians just have so much slang.
Yeah, I like
A,
Australian
l-
slang.
a lot of slang and a lot of swearing.
Yeah.
Swearing just
The
kind of happens in sentences, like without even noticing. You can talk to an
yeah.
Australian and there'll be like at least three swear words in a sentence, but no one even picks it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the funniest and kind of most confusing is Australian slang that I remember is that I met a friend at Maryland Death Fest like several years ago, and he's from Australia, and he just the saying like, "Oh, that's good as," like
Yeah, yeah,
just something as, and here we don't. It would be like there would be another word after as,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah,
was so confused, like, what are you talking about? But
yeah.
I
We
like
say
it.
good as, or what's the other one? There's another as one that the sick as.
Yeah,
Yeah, like there's like words that don't have sentences, like that don't have anything on the end of it,
yeah,
like
like
at
as
all.
what, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Or
It's
like
on.
the best one is yeah, nah. That's always my favorite one because people don't understand it at all. Maybe like, but it's like sarcastic. It's like, yeah, nah. But you're just like, yeah, nah. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So we have loads of like crazy different slang that you don't realize it's slang until you go overseas and you just say it, and then people are like, "What the hell is that?" Like, it's a really crazy. Um, and so I was gonna say, you're in Arizona. I'm dying to go to Arizona. I have a
Yeah,
really best friend in LA, and she's Mexican, and her family lives in Arizona. So I've been dying to go there because it looks really cool. I think it looks really cool, and it actually
yeah,
it's the same kind of climate as Australia,
yeah.
like
I can see
the
that.
same heat, like the exact same crazy heat,
Mm.
um, as well. Um, and I guess another thing I was gonna say is like, even though I guess you're like death metal, you often get lumped into like metal, doom, sludge, like all that kind of stuff, which I guess is like a good thing because you're getting all these different crowds that are like your that are like coming in and like listening to it. And I mean, you're just drawing such a unique group of people that
Mm.
are, finally like that probably wouldn't have listened to it, but then they've managed to get to it through there.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I think that's a bit originally how I found it. It was like all my like friends who were into Doom and stuff, um, love Gatecreeper.
Mm.
And it was like, yeah, listen, you got to check out Gatecreeper. And then I was like, fuck, yeah, these guys are really good.
Yeah.
Um, and that kind of thing. And uh, yeah, and I was like, whoa, So yeah, I got like really into that. I was also gonna say, which I find this really funny, um, but because a lot of people when I mentioned it, I was gonna be talking to you.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if you realize this or you do realize this, but you're kind of a metal heartthrob, whether you're aware of it or not. And I got like so many messages and like love heart eyes from so many chicks that were like, "Yes, you're interviewing Chase, yeah,"
Yeah.
and yeah, like I think like is that like like I don't know if you kind of aware of it, but like is that like weird for you, like
Um,
no knowing that like there's like all these chicks are just like having like frothing, like
I mean, it's not weird. I mean, I think, and not just like women in general, but just like getting, growing as a band and where people you have like fans, like
mm,
it's one thing when you're playing a band and you're playing shows and like everybody that comes to the shows or the people that listen to your music, they're people that so it
yeah,
goes
yeah,
from there and you're just like, whether you're touring or anywhere and you're like, oh, all these people are coming to the show that like my band and I don't know who they are, so
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
it's always really weird for me to like, think about someone or refer to someone as like fans or something because that just
yeah,
seems like really douchey to me. But
yeah,
but yeah, it's like people who you have no idea who that they exist or who they are, and they know who you are, and
Mm.
they like your music. So, if there's like different stages where I'm like, oh, this is cool, but it's weird, like people coming up at the merch table or whatever, and they know your name. At
Yeah,
first you're like,
yeah, yeah.
whoa, this person who I've never seen before knows who I am or knows my name. When you think about it, it's not that weird because, I know a lot of people that, I'm fans of, or I like their music. I know a lot about them. Um,
Mm.
so it's cool, but it's, I guess it can be kind of weird sometimes, but now,
Yeah.
especially with social media and everything.
Sorry, just a bit of a buffer there.
There you go.
Whoop, a little bit of a buffer. Yeah. I
Yeah,
was just gonna say there's
yeah.
the comments are going off about
Are
how
they? I
much
can't
of a
see them.
babe you are. Yeah. They're like they're going off about how much of a babe you are and blah 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 blah. Um, I
They're
think
not
there's
even
a lot of
showing up for
female
me.
fan. There's a lot. So yeah, if you I think you've got a girlfriend, do you? Anyway, but no, you don't. Well,
No.
You've got a plethora of potential candidates. People are, yeah, it's really strange. But yeah, I guess, and then on top of like kind of being like, um fortunate enough to be quite attractive and have an epic mustache, which is one of my
Not right
favorite
now.
things in the world. Yeah, I love mustaches. It's like my thing. But yeah, I think it's like really yeah, like it's weird getting used to that whole like, the like fanboys and stuff like that, and and they want to talk like
Mm.
get really into it. I mean, I guess it's because you're vocal, you probably get it a little bit less, but like, the other members of the band get all that like full on gear talk and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
so you probably escape a little bit of that. But it is really cool that you do go to the merch, like you actually do merch and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's cool. Like, you can look at it as one way, or like people, call people punishers or whatever it is, because there's a lot
Yeah.
of people there
Do
definitely are people that don't pick up on social cues or whatever, that you're like, you're there working and you're doing something, and you can't just like get stuck doing, talking to one
talking to
person.
someone. Yeah,
But
yeah.
you also want to be able to, like, I like to make myself available,
Hmm.
whether it's on social media or, in person. Like, you have to,
Yeah.
but there's a fine line where like you can't be completely, I don't want to put my entire personal life all over social media, or I don't want to like,
Of course. Yeah.
you know, uh, to a detriment of my own well-being, or like my own, I want to have my own personal time, or at least my own personal space. But you got to find the fine line between, making yourself available and like, protecting your own,
Your
time,
impact. Yeah.
whatever it is. So it's constantly changing, but I think it's cool. Like, I like attention, who doesn't,
Yeah.
so, and I like, I think I'm a nice person, and I've actually have a lot of people, when they first meet me, whether it's like women or whatever, that they've only seen like pictures of me, or they've only seen like, you know whatever it is I post on Instagram, whatever. People are like,
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna be a dick, like I thought you were gonna be
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
asshole. I've heard it several times that like they thought I was gonna be completely different than I really am,
Yeah. I
which,
think it's that like it's the vocalist, metal, and you're attractive. So it's like he must be a dick. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's kind of something that like people, I guess, assume or like just expect. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
Maybe I should
but
start.
yeah,
Maybe I should start being mean.
no, I mean it's it's cool to have people that are really nice in the scene, because there are a lot of like bands that are real, just don't have time for fans, don't have, that are very like switched off from their fan base. They finish their show and
Yeah,
they walk off and they off stage and they're out of there. and they have like, you know, someone else doing their merch and they're just not interested whatsoever. So I think it's cool that you're actually involved in that whole experience, like with the fans and stuff. Because I mean,
Yeah.
you know, they're paying, you know, they're paying for you to live, and they're like supporting your art, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like it's such a cool thing to be able to give back. But like I was gonna say, it's funny that you mentioned the word Punisher, because little buffer there. About, I don't even know now, maybe 10 plus years or more ago, um, Punish and Punisher kind of started as an Australian festival thing. So, and all the
Okay.
Americans that would come over, we would tell them about it and be like, oh, you know, blah blah blah, stay away from such and such. They're such a fucking punish. And then we started with and then we started with the word Punisher. And then what started happening was at festivals, um, there'd be signs up saying no fucking Punishers, like on the dressing rooms and stuff. So it kind of
Okay.
like, I feel like it kind of like started years and years ago, and then we kind of like passed it on to all the musicians, and now it's just like a common term between
Yeah.
everyone.
The first time that
But
the first time I had heard the term used like that was definitely from, you know, like touring bands or whatever. It was even
yeah,
before Gatecreeper, but you know, like I made friends with bands that were in town and they'd be like talking about like somebody was a Punisher, and I was like, what does
yeah,
that mean? But now I know very
yeah,
well what that means, you know, but I think it
yeah,
is pretty like in the touring world that's like a commonly
yeah,
used phrase.
yeah, yeah. It's become like the staple phrase that everyone knows. It's like, oh, you can sometimes you can see one a mile away,
Yeah.
and you like gotta go quick,
Yeah,
run the other
I think
direction.
it's pretty funny, like at least for me, like to see one of my friends getting punished. Like I'll even stick like a Punisher on, like Eric, our guitar player. I think he's just there's something about him that he's so nice and like so welcoming that
Oh no, so he gets
he's
sucked
kind of
in
like a
more.
Punisher magnet, you know, and he's too nice to really like have to um you know like you know tell someone, hey, I gotta go, or like, hey. So they just gravitate to him. So I won't necessarily send him to him, but if I can, as a joke, I'll kind of like dish someone out on somebody
Yeah,
else. Yeah, I'll be like, oh, he wants to
yeah,
talk to you, you know. Um, but
yeah. And then you get shit afterwards for that.
I don't know. It's all part of it's all part of the game.
Like, yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
like I used to like do a lot of like taking bands out, you know, to bars and like organizing for them to go party after shows and stuff like that.
What
And
city are you in? What city are you in?
Melbourne.
Okay.
And yeah, and like a part of my like kind of role was to like get rid of the punishers.
Hmm.
So I'd be like the cruel one, where I'd have to be like, hey, like, you know, you've had enough time here. They're like trying to have fun on their own, you know. Yeah, you're gonna have to move on type thing. So I have been a bitch to punishers in the past to other people, so that they look like, so they come across as really nice, but I'm
Hmm.
the bitch, which I'm fine with being like, if that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like, you know, um, and I was gonna say, like, for you, like, what is your because everyone has one. Like, what is your like guilty pleasure musically that you listen to that people wouldn't guess? I mean, I listen to ABBA, and I'm not ashamed of
Yeah.
that. And I'll sing
I,
along, and you know, like I know all the, you know, there's everyone's kind of got that one or two, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know if anything is necessarily like a guilty pleasure for me. I'm pretty like open about what the stuff that I like.
Mm.
But but I guess if it's something that people are kind of like
What?
surprised by, I like a lot of SoundCloud rap. Like I like a little Peep and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
All the
I legitimately like it, you know, and
like all the like the Xanax
yeah, yeah,
rappers.
so, yeah, face tattoo, like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's actually a huge and how I originally got into it, there's a huge overlap of people that were in hardcore bands or metal bands or,
Mm.
behind the scenes that kind of have crossed over into that, or, like they used to tour manage hardcore bands or metal bands, and now they tour manage those sort of artists, or they do, a lot of my friends that do graphic design, like they start doing that. And that's like how I met like Post Malone, and like there behind the scenes of our world and that sort of world, there's a huge crossover.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I
I was gonna
think there was
say,
a
so you're a fan of Post Malone?
yeah.
I was gonna
So that,
say,
I guess,
do you want a skateboard?
what's that?
I have a Post Malone tour skateboard that's unopened from when I worked on Post Malone's tour. Do you want it?
Yeah, yeah, of course,
No,
sure.
no one wants it. I've been trying to get
Yeah,
rid of it for ages. I'll text you about it later.
all right.
I was gonna because yeah, no one wants it, but it's like a completely unopened, and it's a tour, a special tour Post Malone skateboard that only like people who spent $300-400 on VIP tickets got. So yeah, it's quite rare.
That
But yeah,
sounds
I'll
cool.
message you about it. But yeah, someone's actually mentioned Ghostman. I was going to say that to you.
Oh yeah.
Because Ghostman, I've forgotten how to say his metal band, but it's starts with a B. It's two words and B and an M.
Yeah,
But
I forgot what it's called.
yeah, and then he made that foray into like rap, but with a bit of screaming, and kind of that kind of thing. And he was sort of, fans with and collaborated with like quite a lot of the, SoundCloud rappers and that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
we played a show with him.
Yeah, what was
We
that
played
like?
it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in LA. It was at the Roxy. I think we were asked to do a couple of shows with him, including
Mhm.
Arizona and maybe Texas or something, but we had some sort of there was some sort of scheduling conflict. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's cool. Like when people have asked me about that before, like I legitimately like that type of music, and I think it's
Mhm.
cool for to play to new people. Like especially for Ghostman, because he has like definitely
That,
a metal sort of aesthetic and incorporates that sort of stuff into his music. So it's like, yeah, sure. If we can play in front of his fans, like there's probably going to be a lot of them that'll like our band. So why would we not want to play to a bunch of new people, you know?
yeah, and he
And
has
we've
like
also,
an
yeah,
eclectic fan base as well because he's got the rap
yeah,
side as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, I took photos and filmed his Australian. See, I worked on his Australian Melbourne show, and
Oh, cool.
it was so good. It
Yeah.
was it was phenomenal live. But did you have that weird person that just wears a mask and crawls around the floor?
Yeah,
There's
I
like,
know him. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know what like. Apparently, he like lots of people know him. He's like I don't know, he's a friend or something. But yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm like, how much? I wonder. I was like, that's a cool gig.
Yeah, well,
Like
that
he,
guy, he actually plays bass in the band now. But for a while he was
cool.
just because I made friends with Eric Ghostman, and there was when he started playing with a full like live band,
Hmm.
it pretty much, and still is, like all people from
Yeah,
bands and everything. So
yeah, yeah,
it's cool. Like I think it's a legitimate thing, and people will look down on any sort of crossover of different things, and I think it's cool. I think it's exciting. I think if you just look at their fan base, or people that go to their shows, are obviously really a lot younger people. So I think that's always
yeah.
exciting. I'm getting older. Like I'm 33, so it's like whatever kids that are teenagers, I'm potentially 20 years older than them. I'm just an old
Mm.
man. So it's just like, even if I don't
Well,
fully
I'm an old
understand you,
gamer.
yeah. So even if I don't understand it, I don't have to, because it's not meant for me. It's not meant for me to understand. It's like when we were kids, it's like we didn't expect our parents to understand everything that we were into. So it's just
We
like
were, yeah,
you got to have a good perspective about it. Be like, oh, well, this is, if a bunch of younger kids are into it, then like who am I to say that it's whack or it's corny or whatever? Like,
Yeah.
I think
Well, I
it's
mean,
all cool.
musically, it's really cool, like the way he does it. And I love the way that he mixes. I'm not a huge rap fan, but I love the way that he mixes the metal vocals with the rap.
Yeah.
And then like he did that thing where he released like I don't know, every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, he released a new EP or new song that was a
Mhm.
different genre.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. Like it was a really like such a really cool thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, when I saw him, that guy was just wearing a mask and he just crawled around. That
Yeah.
was his role in the band. Um, is there anyone that you've played with that I guess is like been the absolute highlight of your career so far?
Um, well, we got to tour with Cannibal Corpse, so that's cool. I
That's
mean,
pretty.
it's
That's pretty amazing.
arguably one of the biggest, like most important death metal bands. Um, so for us as a death metal band to be able to tour with them, it was a really cool tour. It was us, Power Trip, and Cannibal Corpse. So it was
And
Power
Power
Trip,
Trip are
who
cool
is,
too.
yeah, yeah. So they're like more um, our generation or whatever, like our peer group, and then
Yeah,
to tour with a very legendary band. And that was a really cool tour. Um, and I'm trying to think. That's definitely the highlight for sure.
the main one. Yeah, yeah. Um, and I was gonna say because I absolutely love this. This is one of my favorite things to ask people. Have you got a show that was like a major fuck up? Where like where like just like there's that one show like where everything goes wrong or something really crazy happens or you know
Um,
what.
we luckily we haven't had any like disastrous.
Hmm.
One time when actually on that Cannibal Corpse tour, we had a fill-in drummer because like our normal drummer couldn't do the tour, so we had a fill-in drummer, and he is a really good drummer, but we hadn't played with him at all. So like he flew out to Arizona and we played maybe one time and then we started the tour. So he
Hmm.
was still like new, I guess. One show in Texas, I think it was in Dallas, we he got lost in a song and we had to like stop playing. Like that had
Yeah,
never
yeah,
happened before. Like someone messes up, it's whatever, but you keep rolling. But like we literally had to stop playing, and I'm
yeah,
not sure
yeah,
if we restarted the song or we just like moved on.
yeah.
But it's funny because that was probably the most disastrous thing that's happened.
Well, that's
But
not too bad.
we, yeah, and we made like, we turned it around because when we stopped, we had a good idea. So we were playing in Phoenix, like hometown show, a couple days later on the tour. So we were like, hey, let's do that again. Let's stop playing and but on purpose and just like get
Yeah, yeah.
everybody hyped up. And we did it, and that was probably the first show that like we played in Arizona, and it was obviously like a big tour that we were on, but like that was a show that we were like,
It's
me
like a
personally, I was
home.
like, oh yeah, like
It's like a
we
home
made
show.
it, yeah, 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 like, um, yeah, it was really cool. So we ended up making it into a very positive thing. Um,
Yeah, yeah. That's really
so
cool.
I mean, there's shows where there's like equipment issues, which is always annoying and a little bit embarrassing, where you're just kind of standing on. For me, I'm just like standing on stage while somebody is fixing
Yeah,
something or
fixing
whatever.
something. But I mean, I
But
guess those things you can blame other people for. It's not necessarily you. Like I
yeah,
don't know if you know Russian circles, but Mike was telling me that one of their funny ones was that they played a song and then they finished the song and Mike started playing the same song again. And the drummer and the bass player stopped and were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And like and then they went over and they were like, "Dude, we just played that song." And he was like literally playing the whole song again. And like, yeah, I was like, yeah, that's a funny one. Or people vomiting on stage. I've had a few of
ooh,
those.
I've came really close to doing that, but I have not.
That's good. Like, yeah, like someone was singing and then was like, "Oh my God, my throat," and then just vomited, like right on, like just moved to the side and vomited,
I've
which
I've
was
definitely
like,
thought about it. I've
Yeah, it's
considered
like
it.
yeah, it's like one of those like kind of crazy things that like you can't control. You know what I mean? I always wonder, like, because I know a lot of bands don't eat before they go
Yeah,
on stage, so they sort of like don't have to go to the bathroom or whatever. Like, but I know there's been like shows where people are like, oh my, I think it was Alice in Chains, and I'm like, I'm gonna shoot my pants, and like they had to stop and do a runner and like come
yeah,
back, which is quite
yeah.
funny.
That, I mean, it's definitely you have to establish. I mean, I was gonna say I've came close to feeling like I was gonna throw up on stage, but it's because I ate to, like I learned that I can't eat like 3 hours or some sort of window. Like even on our last tour,
Beforehand.
like we were in town. I think we were in Baltimore, and I had some friends that were in town, and they
Hmm.
took me out to eat. Like we went to Olive Garden or something, and I was like, we sound checked. They came to the show, and then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna take you out." I'm like, "All right, cool." And I kind of forgot like that we were gonna have to play pretty soon after that.
So yeah, yeah,
Ate a big meal, and then that's the time when you're playing. And you're like, "That was not a good idea," like
not a good idea.
all the
Yeah.
lasagna or whatever you ate is like bubbling in your stomach. So
Yeah, and if you're jumping around or whatever,
yeah.
not cool. And so like your self-titled came out like 2014.
Hmm.
What would you say is like the biggest difference now compared when you think back, um, to 2014? Like what's changed and what what's better, what's worse, and like I think it's obviously better, but for you, like what do you think?
Just more experience. Like we honestly still kind of operate the same as far as like writing music. Not much has changed as far as the techniques or like the like the logistics of as far as creating music.
Hmm.
But we just learned, like we learned how to write better songs. We learned how to play better. We learned whatever kind of artistic creative tricks that we can throw into there. We learned
Yeah,
what we're good at, and what we could throw in, like add to the mixture that we have. Because the blueprint, whatever I consider the Gatecreeper blueprint has always been the same.
yeah,
As
yeah,
far as like the building blocks is what we use to make our band what it is. But I would just say time and experience and learning as much as we can, and just you know getting better and better at what we do. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and just like keep getting tighter and
yeah.
all that kind of thing. Um, I totally had something in my head and then just completely blanked. Um,
Is it gonna kick
I
us
was
off soon?
no, we're cool. We're cool for the time being. Um, I was gonna say a couple of people have mentioned the fact that a lot of the times that you don't post the lyrics. Um, and that's more of a conscious decision on your part, really, isn't it? To not
Yeah.
to to not post the lyrics. And um, is there a reason why, or like it's just not relevant to you? Like you
Um,
don't feel like you need to?
yeah, a little bit of that. Like you said earlier, like you listen to metal bands or bands that have, extreme vocals or whatever, and you're not really paying attention to what the lyrics are, and neither do I. And I think that's kind of a
Mm.
weird for me to be saying as like the singer of a metal band, but the
Mm.
music, the bands that I like, the records that I like, I don't really, there's some like especially like death metal records that I've listened to hundreds of times, but I don't know what the lyrics are, and I don't really care. That's not why I'm listening to it. So that's my own personal opinion, at least the stuff
Hmm.
that I enjoy.
Yeah.
So um, I was just like, I don't really care about the lyrics. Like, I don't care to put them into the insert. But over time, I realized that that's a little bit selfish because just because that's how I enjoy music. That doesn't mean that everybody. So, there'd be a lot of people who'd be like, oh, I want, can you send me the lyrics, or what are the lyrics? And, you know, not, I realize that not everybody is like me, like some people that's how they connect to the music is through the lyrics.
through the
Um,
lyrics. Yeah, I mean,
so
I really love lyrics, but for certain bands. But metal, like I
yeah,
said, is something that I see as like as an order, like a sound thing, rather than actually needing to know the lyrics.
yeah.
As
So
well. Um,